This is One-on-One.
That's good acting, man.
I get that a lot. I go to Atlantic City all the time, like, are you the guy? I go, no, I'm not.
This is one you can't afford to miss.
They thought that I wouldn't survive it, but I knew I would.
I'm Steve Adubato. You know, I have one of my favorite guests, one of my best friends around, right here on the set. There he is right there. He is John Welshons. He's the author of the book, One Soul, One Love, One Heart, The Sacred Path to Healing All Relationships. Good to see you, John.
Oh, it's great to be here, Steve. Always good to be with you.
Yeah, you know, for those of you who don't know our history with John, we met John after 9/11. He wrote a wonderful book called Awakening from Grief. John, grief counselor, seminar leader, life coach, does all sorts of things, but after 9/11 we came together and hopefully we helped some people who were struggling. Hey John, tell me about the theme of this book. What is it?
Basically that we are all one. I mean, it really examines that question and that contention in light of all our relationships, and not just about romantic relationships. Romantic relationships are covered in the book, but this is about so much more: relationships with our children, with our parents, with our friends, with our community, with our planet, with the environment, and the relationship with our own being, with our highest nature, our soul.
Our lives revolve around relationships.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Even if you're an artist or this, in the end. One of the most powerful things that you talk about here is your relationship with your father. And you and I have talked about this off the air as well.
Right.
You know, my dad was my dad, is my dad. Tough, rough. That's what he thought love was in his own way. Or at least what he thought a father was. You had a tumultuous relationship with your father.
Yeah.
Describe it.
My dad was a very serious alcoholic, and that was going on before I was born, and right after I was born he got sober. So for most of the first 10 years of my life he was sober and we were great friends and I idolized him. Then he started drinking again, and he was one of those people who, when he drank, he just, in the blink of an eye, could turn from the nicest guy you've ever met into an absolute demon. And so most of my teenage years were spent living with someone who was just not very pleasant. And he was violent and abusive and always lovely when he was sober, but when he drank, he completely changed.
That went on for years? But in the book, you talk about before he died, coming to a very different place, or getting to a very different place. Talk about that.
Well, I think it kind of started when I was visiting with a friend of mine named Ram Dass, who was a wonderful spiritual teacher, and I was talking about the problems I was having with my father. And he said to me, after listening for a while, he said, I have a great idea. He said, why don't you see your father as your guru, as your highest spiritual teacher? I said, my father, that old so-and-so? And he knew my father too, so it was an audacious statement, but I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. And it completely changed my relationship with my father.
How so?
Well, because in spiritual traditions, and the traditions that have high teachers that sometimes are referred to as gurus, basically when you take the guru as your teacher, you understand that everything he does is for your spiritual benefit. So immediately it shifted my focus with my father from seeing him as the father who fell short of my hopes and expectations to someone who was acting the way he acted to teach me something about myself.
But did you actually believe that he was being abusive to you as a kid because he wanted to teach you something? Or he was drunk and he was being abusive?
No, he was drunk and he was being abusive. But you could shift your focus and just see it differently. You know, why not see it differently? And I'm not talking about physical abuse, because physical abuse is certainly something you get away from as much as you can, and psychological abuse to the extent that you can. But now I'm in my 20s and my 30s. He's not drinking as much, he's just cranky. And I'm trying to deal with him in a healthy way and heal our relationship before he dies.
Did he ever apologize to you?
He did. He did. He had great remorse for the way that he had acted when he was younger, during his drinking days.
A couple other things. Anger. Big theme in the book.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I bring up...
Who are we angry with?
Who are we angry with? We're just angry. I mean, anger sort of feeds on itself. And the reason I bring it up in the book is because the book is really about how to find happiness in life, How do you find happiness in relationships where you can't necessarily change?
That's the goal.
behavior?
A therapist told me one time, the goal, Steve?
Uh-huh.
I said, what's this all about? He goes, getting to happy.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Can we get to happy no matter how much crap is around us?
Yes, because happiness is inside us. It's a place of consciousness inside us. So whenever you feel happy, you're experiencing something in your own being. And when you feel unhappy, it's because your mind is telling you something, you know, this is wrong, this person shouldn't act this way,
right.
They shouldn't behave this way, I don't like the government doing this, or I don't like the weather, or...
I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore.
There you go.
Where does that get us?
Yeah, it gets us nowhere. It gets us mad as hell. More mad, because the anger becomes addictive. So the question is, rather than, it's not saying that we shouldn't get angry, because if we have human minds, we'll get angry. The idea is to understand that anger is never going to make us happy. It's never going to lead to happiness. It just leads to more anger.
And the other themes in here, because, okay, so let me ask you.
Yeah.
3 keys to happiness.
I would say to recognize, first of all, that it's inside us. It is not in external people or situations. You know,
If only.
If only.
If only I made more money.
Right.
If only I could go to such and such a network. If
Yeah.
only my wife would, right? No?
Yeah. That is...
But doesn't that help?
Apparently not.
Go ahead.
Apparently not.
It's inside.
It's inside us. Love and peace and happiness are all states of awareness inside our beings. And when we feel them, we're feeling them inside ourselves. It's just that something in the external environment triggered it. But if we're relying on the external environment to keep us happy, we're going to always fall short, because whatever it is that's happening is going to change.
Yep. Give me number 2, key to happiness.
Number 2 key to happiness is to find a way to love and forgive no matter what. Now that doesn't mean to approve of unconscious, unkind, or violent behavior in other people or even in ourselves. It means to recognize that carrying resentment about those things is only going to poison our own life. You know, it's going to poison our own heart.
I'll get them back.
Yeah.
I'll show them how much I will make them suffer.
Right. And who suffers when you do that? You know, the Buddha had a wonderful statement about anger. He said, getting angry is like reaching your hand into a red-hot flaming fire, picking up a red-hot glowing charcoal with the intention of throwing it at someone, and picking it up in your bare palm to throw it at someone. Who suffers? You know? So I'm not saying, and I have to say this throughout the book, that I'm not saying that any of what I'm suggesting is to condone
Right.
behavior that is inappropriate. It's just to say, if we have to put someone in jail, we don't have to hate them and torture them, but we have to put them in jail to eliminate their potential to harm other human beings.
What do we got, guys? A minute? I always feel like with John, there's more. Doubt, insecurity is talked about. You talk about so many keys to unhealthy relationships. Final thing you want to say to people, and why they should go out and buy the book?
Well, because I think that the book will help them to see, in this crazy world that we live in, that many of the things that our culture has taught us about finding happiness are wrong, and that the place we find it is inside ourselves, and that there are scientific ways to do that, but not to look into the external environment. To find a way to find peace and contentment, to quiet your mind and open your heart so that you can find that place of peace in yourself at all times.
The author is John Welshons, and the name of the book is One Soul, One Love, One Heart, The Sacred Path to Healing All Relationships. As always, great stuff, and I want to thank you, my friend.
It's great to be with you, Steve. Thanks for the invitation.
Anytime.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org and visit us online at oneonone.org.